What's up, guys? Sentinel here. Today, we are here for a doubleheader review. Uh, Today we have two Challenger locomotives. Union Pacific number 3985 and Union Pacific number 3711. Both of these Challengers are Broadway Limited Paragon 3 releases. They are both die-cast. They are both heavy, amazing pulling power, amazing detailing, and they both are getting Tsunami 2. Well, 3711 already has it. 3985 I've still got to order the decoder for, but they have Tsunami 2. We'll have Tsunami 2 at least. Anyways, both of these Challengers I bought used, and I've repaired and upgraded and added lights to. Now 3985 was the most recent of them. 3711 I had for a little while to experiment, and I absolutely love both of them. I will never get rid of these two ever, especially now that I have the excursion version, and now I have a freight version purely for freight and nothing else. Well, 3985 will be doing both. But anyways, in today's video, we're going to take a look at both of these amazing, beautiful locomotives. We'll do a brief history session, and then we'll take a look at the detail of these locomotives. So, the Union Pacific Challengers were a class of 4664 articulated coal-fired and oil-fired steam locomotives. These Challengers were built in, or at least I can speak for 3985. 3985 was built in 1943, and it was served the Union Pacific for about 20 years until being retired in 1962. 3711 was built around that same time, around 1942 or 1962, and of course it served the UP system for about 20 years until being retired and scrapped in 1962 as well. Now you might notice one's 3711 and one's 3985. How does that work? Well, 3985 was the coal burning number. So when 3985 was in service, 3985 was its original number, and also it kept its original number because it burned coal all its life until it was converted to burn oil in 1990. 3711, when it was in service with the Union Pacific, it also burned coal when it was first in service. Now I don't remember this specific engine's original road number, but if I can find it, I will put it underneath the locomotives. Anyways, 3711, when it was originally in service, it had a different number, so it was like a 3900 number. Well, when it was converted to burn oil, for the Union Pacific to be able to tell which one was the oil burners, they changed the numbers to the 3700 series. So there's 3700, 3707, for example, and then of course our locomotive we're looking at today, 3711, which is an oil-burning Challenger, which is what both of these are. These both burn oil, because oil is better by a long shot in many ways. But anyways, 3985 was restored in 1981, and its first excursion was on its way to railfare with famous steam engine number 844. It held the world's largest operating steam title for 30 years. This locomotive is also very well known to be operated one of the greatest engineers of all time, Steve Lee. And another cool thing about this engine, this locomotive makes a world record, or at least in America. Well, yeah, probably still a world record today, for pulling the longest freight train in the excursion era single-handedly. 3985, as you all know, is the steam engine that pulled the American presidential lines. I think that's what the name of that train was. Either way, it pulled a very, very fat double stack train. It pulled 143 cars across freaking Archer Hill all by itself. I can't speak today. Jesus Christ. But yeah, this locomotive pulled 143 cars all by itself with no assistance at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. That is insane. A 6,000 ton train by yourself. Meanwhile, 4014 unfortunately does not have that luxury, which It's sad because I really love that locomotive, but when you're always having to be shuffled around by a diesel locomotive all the time, it's kind of upsetting. But modern times, modern solutions, quote unquote. I don't know, but give the big boy a chance. Hashtag solo excursion. Anyways, enough of the real locomotive. Oh wait, no, there is still more about the real locomotive because this thing is absolutely awesome. The real 3985 was retired in 2020. It was retired in late 2019 and early 2020. This locomotive has been sitting in the roundhouse for about 12 years. Its last run was October 2010, and it's supposed to be restored once again by the organization that runs Milwaukee Road number 261. So soon we will see 3985 running once again under its own power, hopefully again doing what it does best, unassisted. So we will see that. Or if it does run with the diesel, it'll be running with the only diesel that should be behind any Union Pacific steam engine, the DD40 6936. So hopefully we will see the DD40 behind it soon. Anyways, yeah, so soon 3985 will be running once again, also along with 5511 and 261. Hopefully does a choke header with the other two. But anyways, we have two challenges here. One with smoke deflectors, and of course the one without. We've got one of each, both oil burners, because oil is cool, oil is better, no doubt about it. But yeah, we're going to take a look at the details on both of these. We're going to take a look at the details on 3985, since it's the newest of the two. And then afterwards, we'll take a look at 3711 at some of the differences that this one has versus 3985. Which there's a few, not very many. There's not a lot of differences between the two. But I do like that there are differences, because there should be. Because some companies will just make one mold of them and not make specific versions of that specific locomotive, because we're in an age when there's supposed to be road name and road number specific detailing, especially for $600 and $700 steam engines. The best part, it's die cast. It's flimsy, cheap plastic. But anyways, going on with the locomotive. From the factory, you will have a plow right here. There'll be a plow here. You can pop it out and push in a dummy coupler that clips into place. However, because I like having a working front coupler, I took that whole assembly out and put a front coupler on this locomotive. So, yeah, you got a coupler cut lever here. You've got the pilot shield and air pump shield. You got the little vents here on the air pump shield. You got the headlight with lit number boards on either side of the headlight. You have the handrails right here. You have the safety tread walkway deck up here. You have 3985 written on the smoke box door. We have the handrails above it. We have a brass bell that does swing back and forth. We have lit marker lights, lit number boards. We have a smokestack, which is very nicely detailed. Of course, the handrails running alongside the boiler. Now, being one of the Broadway limited Union Pacific steam engines, or at least on this one, or at least on the big three, these come equipped with a smokestack, of course, because why add smoke in something that you really don't need? But, well, I won't say that. It's a cool feature, but with Paragon being added to that smoke unit, I'd rather not have it. Despite that, the Paragon actually wasn't too bad in this locomotive. However, it did, of course, shit itself. But anyways, going back to the locomotive and the smoke, by default, this comes with a Paragon 3 sound system. This locomotive will come with a smokestack and a whistle smoke feature. This is the Broadway's best whistle smoke engine, so if you can find one of these, it's going to be nice if the Paragon is working. I'm going to move alongside and scoot this engine back. My phone is going off. That's not fun. I don't like that. Anyways, looking on the side of the locomotive, we have nice detailed piping. We can see the front truck as well, which is very nicely done. We have a builder's plate right here, which is legible under magnification. We have cylinders here. We have the articulation piping, which of course moves, which is a standard for articulated steam locomotives. We also have the handrails going back to the cab. We have the smokestack up here. You can probably see you have some piping right here. Not sure how well you can see it, but the whistle is up here. I have had to glue this back on, of course, because again I bought this engine used. Both of them I bought used. More piping here. The valve gear is very nicely done. Looks really good. We have more piping here. Very nicely done. You can see right here, which I still need to paint over. You can probably see some silver wire, which I'm not sure if it's very visible on camera, but it is there, of the running lights that I've added to this locomotive, which is a staple for the Union Pacific Heritage Fleet. So, that is nice. Which I hope scale trains, when they do theirs, they add the running lights. Probably not, because it's pretty difficult to do on a steam engine. The rear set of drivers, which is very nicely detailed. Of course, the rear swivels, like almost every are articulated, unless you're intermountain. Intermountain, please do the cab forward again. We have a firebox, which is very nicely detailed. Stay-bolt detailing, more piping, no ash pans, of course. You can actually see the burner, which is cool, because this is the first time. This is Broadway, I think, is the only person who has actually captured this detail. It's the burner underneath the firebox, which is very nice. You got more piping running down here under the cab. You can see the separately applied dynamo up here. Up here you can see the domes. You can see the pop-off valves, which are black. On the real Challenger, they were originally brass, but of course, with weathering and age, they're black. So that this is technically correct. So we're going to leave that alone. There's supposed to be 2 dynamos right here. Honestly, even without the other one, I'm just happy that it's there. This is by far better than an MTH Challenger. And if you didn't know, this is, if I'm not mistaken, developed from the old Lionel Challenger tooling. So, again, this tooling went out very, very well. It went out with a bang. And Broadway did a really good job. I really hope that they do another run of these Challenger locomotives. Or if Scale Trains does them, I hope they do a much better job too. Because this is the best Challenger on the market. And if they can do a better job than Scale Trains, there are some, if you're watching this video, Scale Trains, I will point out everything that you need to do right. Road number, very crisply defined. You have the signage underneath the road number as well. The cab windows do open. The cab roof hatch also opens. It opens. Just push it down to close it. The windows open, of course. Just slide them back and forth. Between the locomotive and the tender, close gap, permanent drawbar. If you want to separate the locomotive from the tender, you do have to take the tender off and remove 2 screws. And then the drawbar will be, and then you can remove the drawbar. The drawbar itself doesn't come off, but the drawbar can be removed from the tender. You got a deck plate, which is very nice and flat, like it should be. You got the utility box on the front, which is supposed to be here. So Scale Trains, if you're listening, when you do your locomotives and the tenders, this utility box is supposed to be here. You got the extra piping going up to the top for that to support it. You got a fire hose only sticker here, or decal, or that's painted on actually. Aluminum lettering, which is very, very nice and crisp, and very well done. Silver roller bearing caps, which I forgot to point out as well. You got a steam hose right here, going back to the back of the tender, which we're going to need some light here in a second. They'll bring some light over so we can show you everything. Alright. On the back of the tender, you have lit marker lights. They don't have these on the real thing anymore, unfortunately. However, on the model, especially for about $700 for this model, unfortunately, put them on anyway. These might not, the big boy, the Challenger, and FEF, they might not have these, on the real things the real things, of course, had these, okay, in service, but on the models, or at least on the real things today, they don't have them anymore. Put them on anyway. And the reason I say put them on anyway is because it's already a $700 model, and you've got the space to do it. and the know how to do it, just put it on. It makes it cooler. It's a cool ass feature for one, and why not? It's already $700. Just go all out on it anyway. Also, something I also forgot to put out. We'll go back to the Firebox in a minute, anyways. But I got a Firebox Flicker on this engine too. So, $700. I want to see. I don't want to see any shortcuts. But knowing scale trains, they'll do a good job. I gotta listen to coupler screw. But anyways, coupler cut bar, steam hose cable, coupler, of course, and the air hose. Gallon specification. Ladders, which are very nicely done. Metal ladders. Lit marker lights. Should be on a $700 model. This light from the factory does not work. I made it work. There is a way to put an LED in there. You literally just slide a LED in there and then put this back on. That's it. Well, you have to remove a little bit. There's a little bit of metal you might have to remove to get the LED to flow down into the tender. But once you remove that, you just slide a LED in there, put this back on. It's two little pins. So you just push it into place and feed the wires inside and put the back of the tender on. So, Broadway or scale train, sorry, hope you're listening. Cast in conduit wires for the marker lights. Very nicely done. Now, I'm going to turn the locomotive around. I will take a look at the engineer's side of the locomotive. Alright. So, engineer side, pretty much the same. More steam piping right here coming off of the boiler. You have the throttle linkage right here, which is very nicely detailed. You have the sand dome. You have the steam dome. More handrails. More continuation of the throttle linkage. More articulated piping, which is very nice. You can see the running lights, which again, you might see silver wire, which I still need to paint, so don't gripe me about that, because I'm still not done with this engine anyway, because I don't have the decoder yet. You got the reverse gear. For a big ass engine like this, you're going to need a reverse gear instead of a Johnson bar, because I would not want to have to call like 7 people to help me move a lever. Anyways, boiler jacketing is very nicely detailed. The piping is good. You got the boiler bands and all that stuff. Burner detail, stable detail, oil pans, oil piping, all that stuff. 69-inch drivers, nice. And Firebox Flicker on this locomotive. And Firebox Glow. Cab light is also on this locomotive. You can see that tender detail a little bit better. It's very nice. Very specific for the Union Pacific. And of course, the other side of the tender, you got this utility box that's right here as well. So that's very nicely done. Now, we're going to pick the camera up and we'll take a look at the top of the locomotive. So at the top, you can see the double stacks. You can also see the cast-in clamshell in the stacks as well. They don't supply the clamshell in the box, and you can't really put one on. However, you don't really use that clamshell anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But that's okay. You have the whistle there. It's angled down because I've had to glue it on. I guess it just started to droop when the glue started to set. But that's okay. As long as it's there, I'm okay. You have the domes as well, which are very nicely detailed. You can see the sanding lines coming off of those, going inside of the jacketing. You have the steam dome, the pop-up valves, the other sand dome, and you have the turret casing. Okay, so the locomotive itself is pretty good. You know, Athearn gets all the details right. However, Broadway does them better because it's die-cast. And, well, Broadway, because Athearn kind of sucks at making steam engines. I'm going to be real with you, Chief. Okay. However, I will say Athearn does package the steam engines nicer. I will give them that. Alright, looking at the tender, this is by far the most accurate oil tender for one of these locomotives I have ever seen. If I grab my pointer, you have the toolbox right here. You have a toolbox here. You have the catch pan. You have the oil hatch itself. You have the dipsticks. And you have more piping coming off down here. This catch pan is a really cool staple because it's actually done properly. And if you go look at my other Challenger review for the Athens Challenger, you'll notice that. There's also a toolbox back here, which surprisingly Broadway forgot that on the FEFs, but I hope they fix that. But yeah, like I said, this is by far the most accurate oil tinder I've ever seen for one of these. This whole model is basically very accurate. The only thing I can find that's wrong with it is that it's missing a dynamo. There's supposed to be 2 dynamos, but again, that's so minor. At least it has a dynamo. MTH. But anyways, that's 3985. Now, I'm going to scoot 3985 back, because I can scoot it on this. And we're going to grab his brother, 3711, and take a look at some minor differences. Very, very minor differences on both of them. Okay. I probably should turn them around because the engineer side shows more of the differences. Even on the tinder. Alright, there we go. So, as we all know, this one has smoke deflectors, so that's one difference. The top of the oil tinders are a bit different as well. Notice how that one doesn't have the catch pan, doesn't have some of that extra detailing that the Excursion one would probably have. It's still got the dipsticks and piping, however it doesn't have the catch pan. It doesn't have the drop down hose connector thing. Hold on. Oh, I can't see with my big finger in the way. That's what this piece is. They would attach a hose and then drop it off the tinder to a truck. It doesn't have that, but it does have the dipsticks and other piping. And yeah, this part is flat. There's a couple of minor things back there that are a bit different, the way that they're laid out, but this one's just flat with rivets. This one has that little control box on the side of the tinder, while this one does not. So again, Broadway did an amazing job with these locomotives. My phone's going off again, but yeah, they're both very well done, very well detailed, very, very heavy, really good pullers. I measured, I think, 12.5 ounces of force. So you can pull anything you want with this. But yeah, this is, like I said, a very, very good locomotive. So I recommend it 100%. If the Paragon goes out, put Tsunami 2 into it, you'll be very happy afterwards. We're going to take 3711 for the run today because, like I said, I can't run 3985. Because it doesn't have a decoder in it yet. It runs, but it doesn't run on DCC, so I can't run it. But we'll take a look at 3711 today, so let's go and run the Challengers. Okay guys, so we're here with the Broadway Limited Challengers. I have both of them on the track. I actually did get the decoder for 3985 finally, so we can take a look at both of them. So I'm moving 3711 into the frame, and it just derailed. That's fun. So we're going to take a look at both of them. Now, both of these locomotives have a Tsunami 2 Steam 2 decoders. So yeah, they both have my signature lighting job, and they have Tsunami 2 Steam 2s in them. So we're going to take a look at them. So we're going to start with 3985 first, of course, since that one's the Excursion version. It's got a little bit more on it than the other one. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so we got the sound on, and we have the CV120 to a value of 25, which is a Hancock 3 chime. So that's what we got on there. Here's the bell that I have on it. So that's that. And as we already see, we have lit markers, lit classification lights, lit number boards, running lights, and a firebox light. The rear red light on the top of the tender also works. You can probably see that turning on right now. So that works. It's the same thing on 3711 as well. So that's good. Tsunami 2s also come with crew talk, so let's play that.
Track detector. Milepost 372.3. No defects. Detector out.
Crew packs, ice water. Alright, thanks. Old Silver Spring crew will meet you there when they get out of their paperwork stuff.
Deadmaster, Brush Local, set your cut over the third rail. Over. Brush Local, copy that. Out.
Dispatch 11, over. Hey, number 11, you have locomotive maintenance. Give us a call about the leader. I'll let locomotive know. Thank you. Out. Joe. Hold up first stop for me, just to make its way up to you there. Should be clear in any minute, though.
So that's that. Pretty good. Their engines both pull a lot. They both measure at 10 ounces of drawbar pull. Right now, my rails are kind of slick since I was running smoke fluid for my 844 and my 4014. As we can see, 844 on this curve, and 4014 is back there in a siding behind it. But yeah, I got 3985 on my excursion, and I have 3711 on a freight train. So let's go ahead and take a look at them running.
about the leader. I'll let locomotive know. Thank you. Out. Roger, out.
This current show track point located at 1733 1733 SCT, over. Thank you, dispatch out.
Yeah, hold this first stop for me, just to make its way up city there. Should be clearing any minute, bro.
Not exceed 25 mile per hour between milepost 55.75 and milepost 56.00. Main track no flag clear. Pilot direct OK time 11:43. 143 hours CDM.
Okay, guys. So, we have come to the end of our running session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a pretty fun one to run the challengers together. I got the big boy here. This is the new Paragon 4 one. 4014, of course. I bought this one to replace my old one, which was the 4018, which I renumbered to 4014, but it was a coal version from the 1941, so I bought this one. Anyways, back to the Challenger. Very impressed, just like the big boy, doesn't disappoint. Really good puller, very heavy, all die cast, traction tires on both sets of drivers, and in my opinion, the best Challenger you can get today. You know, the only things I think that could be better, I think that the drawbar could be a little bit better, honestly, because don't get me wrong, I don't mind not being able to separate it, but having to take the tender apart is a bit of a nuisance to do so. Another thing that could be better as well is, of course, you know, I say this about all articulators, is to have the rear engine fixed, but, you know, gotta accommodate those 18-inch radius crowds somehow. What else? Let's see. It's really about it, I think. I mean, I could say the same thing about the big boy and the 844 too. They can be separated from their tenders, but the drawbars aren't the greatest. The dual kinematic drawbars just don't do this engine justice. And the reason I say that is when you try to pull a heavy load, the tender tends to shift and tends to derail. So that's my take on it. But other than that, I would rate these, all three of these right here, I would rate. The Challenger, I would rate a 9. The big boy, I would also do the same thing. I would rate that a 9. And the FEF, I would rate that an 8.5. And the reason I say the FEF, I would rate it 8.5. The FEF, well, actually no, I would rate it. Actually no, I would take that back. I'll rate it a 9. Actually. However, there are things on the FEF that I have said that could be improved. Mainly on the tender. The locomotive itself is perfectly fine, but the tender does have some flaws that I want improved. Not detail flaws. Well, there are some details that are missing that are on the Challenger and the big boys tender. 844's tender, even though the FEF tender is a little bit different from the big boy and the Challenger's tender, there are still some details missing. It's missing the toolbox, the coupler lever, the air hose, and the steam cable. And of course, this thing does not have rear lit markers. But that is okay. I can do that myself. Still should have been done from the factory. But back to the Challenger, including 3711, which is perfectly fine. It's just off camera right now because I wanted to show the UP3. I finally got them all in Broadway Limited. This is what I really wanted. I'm really happy with how each and every one of them turned out. They can all three of them really could be improved. Yeah, so that's my take on them. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This video did take a lot longer to film. I do apologize for that. I've been busy lately. My life has been changing, so, you know, things happen. But other than that, I do hope you guys did enjoy this. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys on the next one. Signal here, and I am signing out.